Welcome back to the Junkie Sports podcast today. So, with the NBA season coming up here in just a couple of weeks, we are doing our Eastern Conference seeding predictions. And so, we are going to make a Junkie Sports list, put in our own personal predictions, combine them together, and output our list and see how that sort of develops throughout the year. So, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the one seed in the Eastern Conference. Davis, who you got there?
Okay, so my number one seed out east is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm just going to give a quick reason why. I believe the last two seasons the Bucks have had the number one record over in the East, and last year after going 56-17, they've kind of proven. Unfortunately to them, but to the rest of the league's kind of humor that they're a really good regular season team. They just can't get the job done in the playoffs. So I think with some of their acquisitions over the offseason, that's not going to be changing. And they're still going to be the team that, night in, night out is going to be getting it done in the regular season.
Yeah. I think the Milwaukee Bucks, without a doubt, should be the favorites to be the first in the East. Adding in Bogdanovich, I think it's a really big improvement for them. Or apologize, not Drew Holiday, my bad. I think adding him in is a really big step in the right direction to try and keep Giannis around. I think without a doubt, they are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference next year. I'm going to go ahead and kick it on to my number two pick. Someone that I think is going to move up this year into that two slot is the Boston Celtics. And the reason why is because I've said that they just had too many cooks in the kitchen sort of style there. And so I think kind of Gordon Hayward going out to Charlotte is really going to really help establish that pecking order for them. They have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker as their big three. I believe Kemba is out with an injury early on in the season, but I still expect them to do very well. I also think they answered the issue of that center position, signing Tristan Thompson. I think Aaron Nesmith was a great pickup as a shooter to add in there. I expect them to kind of move up into that two slot from last year, especially because I kind of expect Toronto to kind of fall this year.
So are we allowed to disagree? How do we kind of come to
We'll figure
ranking?
it out. But who's your two?
I'd say the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
I don't know how much we want to dwell on it, but they've been able to make the playoffs the last 2 years, with kind of a ragtag group of players, kind of like the Celtics, before Kawhi and Paul George got there. And then now having acquired Kevin Durant, who's arguably the best player in the league, out last season with the injury, but, he'll be on for full shine and back in full health, hopefully next season. Playing alongside Kyrie Irving, and then they're developing young core that they've been able to establish and get more playing time over the past couple of seasons. I think it's kind of a slam dunk, and they could be even vying for that one seed. But I think they'll definitely be able to outpace the Celtics, in my opinion.
So I actually have the Nets as my 3 seed, and the reason why I had them there is because I just think they have so many new pieces. They have a new head coach. They haven't played with Kevin Durant yet. Kyrie Irving barely played with this team. And so, they do have a lot of good pieces. I'm just more concerned that there's going to be some chemistry issues, especially early on. No one really knows how healthy Kevin Durant really is going to be, especially to start off the season. And so that's the only reason I had them at 3 is because I think the Celtics already have that established chemistry. They don't have a new coach. And so that's kind of why I had them down a little bit. And also, no offense, but I don't think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are the best teammates in the world. And so I think there also is going to be issues throughout the season, a lot of drama and that sort of thing. And so I kind of just think that's going to cause them to not be that 2 seed. I definitely think they have the talent and the potential to win the Eastern Conference. I think for regular season reasons, I think the Celtics are a little bit better suited to take that next step.
All right. So now that we disagree, how do we decide?
Who's your 3 seed?
The Raptors.
You Celtics at what,
I
4,
have 4,
5?
yeah.
Hmm. I say we come back to it in a second because I want to hear why you have Raptors at 4, and maybe you can convince me otherwise. So go ahead. Or
So, do
3
you
or
want me to
whatever it
talk
was.
about Celtics at 3 or Raptors at
Or
4?
my bad. I meant to say Raptors at 3. That's what you have Raptors at 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell me why you have the Raptors there.
So, I mean, the Raptors are kind of like the Heat from last year in some aspects, in the sense that they play team basketball and they win by committee. They all work hard on both ends of the court. And, being able to retain Fred Van Fleet, kind of massive. And yes, they lost Serge Ibaka and Marcus Gasol, but they also played significant minutes last season without them. And were still able to come up with the number 2 overall seed out east. I think we're going to continue seeing big steps from OG Anunoby, especially on the offensive end. And, Kyle Lowry has been proven to be one of the best two-way guards in the league. And so I mean, they're retaining most of their talent. Pascal Siakam had a kind of questionable bubble sort of run. He looked, I'll just admit it, he looked horrible
Yeah.
in the bubble. But that's not what we saw from him early in the season and, 2 seasons ago. And so, we can either say that it's kind of the Lauri Markkanen type of deal where he had a couple good seasons, upward trajectory, and then kind of fell off a cliff, or we can just assume that Pascal Siakam is not going to be making that same trend, and he'll just, continue improving. And last season was kind of a fluke, which I kind of lean more towards the latter. And also, while we're at it, we should bring back this nasty, nasty Toronto Raptors throwback logo.
Um. Yeah. I mean, the reason why, and I don't have the Raptors that high, are just because, although they um did re-sign Fred VanVleet, which, by the way, in my opinion, I think they kind of overpaid him. However, free agency market was pretty limited. Um, I think losing Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka is going to affect them a lot. I really do. I mean, getting Aaron Baines is nice, but I don't think he can make up what those two players brought to the floor on both sides of the court. I think that's a big, big loss for them. And so that's kind of why I have them dropping going into next season. I also just think there's other teams that made bigger strides in the offseason are a little bit better suited to move up. Um, so yeah, I don't. So to go back to it, I say let's try and decide where we want it, who we want it to. Um,
I'm
I'm
okay.
okay with putting the Nets there if we want to put the Celtics at 3.
Yeah, that's what I was going to propose.
I'm okay with
Perfect.
that. Let's
I
do
like
that.
that. Cool.
So you got Bucks at 1, Celtics at 2, or Nets at 2, Celtics at 3. Um, and then you have, I guess your next best team would be the Raptors at 4. Is that correct? Because you have them at
Yeah.
3, I guess. So at
Mhm.
4, I actually have the Miami Heat. Um,
Okay.
so
Where do you have the
I
Raptors
have
out
the
of
Raptors at
curiosity?
5. I have the Raptors at 5.
Okay. Okay.
I just think coming off a finals berth last season, I think the Miami Heat are just going to continue to grow and develop a lot of their young talent. I think for them, it's kind of a let's just stay the course right now and continue what we're doing. I also think bringing in Avery Bradley is going to be awesome for them. Bringing in a just defensive-minded guard is going to be really helpful. Jay Crowder's a bit of a loss for them, but I think they just have such a vast amount of young talent. I'm not worried about it at all. And so I honestly kind of expect them to. I mean, they were the 5th seed, they were the 5th seed last year. So I kind of expect them to move up a little bit because I think a lot of last season was like them giving these young guys the opportunity to grow and develop. And I think now that they're comfortable and their team chemistry is on point, like I think they're going to be ready to go in the regular season. So that's why I have them at 4, and then I have Toronto at 5. I'm also concerned. One other thing with Toronto is just, I mean, Kyle Lowry is getting old. Pascal Siakam, I agree. I think the bubble was definitely a fluke, but I think it was also a major concern because Pascal Siakam is like you're at best your number two option on a team. I don't know if like he's someone that you wouldn't be like he's our number one, he's our go-to guy. He's not someone that's like has that shooting, the ball handling, the playmaking sort of skill set. And so that's one thing I'm concerned with is with Kyle Lowry getting up in age, them losing their two incredible big men who brought so much to the floor for them. That's kind of why I have them sliding down to 5. But who do you have at 5?
So at 5, I actually have the Philadelphia 76ers.
So you have the Heat at 6?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, why you have the
And
76ers at 5?
okay, so I mean, we kind of talked about it on the last episode, but I think bringing lots of shooting around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid is only going to help. How only going to help their team going forward, especially with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid bringing pretty elite defensive skill sets night in night out to the team, and then you add Doc Rivers, who's in the past been the Tobias Harris guru somehow, some way. Um, I think maybe he's just going to be able to continue unlocking that extra potential out of him. And I really think that Seth Curry signing more than anything is really being slept on right now because, I mean, we're talking about a guy that is, number one or number two, I believe, all time in terms of 3-point field goal percentage. And I'm sure they're just going to be giving him the green light every single night. Like, why would you not? So, I mean, he's just going to be a difference maker night in, night out. They finished sixth last season. And, I don't see any reason why they can't continue to improve, especially now that they have a competent coach, competent ownership in case things aren't working out. They can sign someone at the trade deadline. I just think the 76ers are going to come in, especially with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons kind of realizing that, based on all the moves, this is kind of their last ditch effort to try to make something work in Philadelphia. And so I think they're going to be coming out, with a big chip on their shoulder, a lot to prove. And I think they're going to get it done. And the reason why I have the Heat below them is because, yes, we saw the Heat, go on into a miraculous Cinderella story last season. But I still don't think they were the best team in the East last season. We can say what we want. But, the bubble does bring extreme circumstances and, weird different player psychology and different aspects to the game that, we can't really fully comprehend. But at the same time, let's also not forget Jay Crowder signed right at the trade deadline. And so he only played 20 games as a Miami Heat player last season going into the bubble. And before he had got there, I'm not saying that, Jay Crowder is the be all end all of their postseason success. I'm saying that they were extremely inconsistent at times during the regular season before he got there. And that's, part of the key reason why they look to try to sign some veteran leadership. But, at the same time, I still, I'm not a huge, I'm not a huge Kelly Olynyk fan. And I also think that the loss of Derrick Jones Jr. is a little bit more impactful than, a lot of media is being talked about because of his role during the regular season. We didn't see a lot from him in the postseason in terms of minutes, but during the regular season, we did see quite a bit of Derrick Jones Jr. and what he was able to bring to the team. And so, I don't think, I mean, yes, we can continue to project Tyler Hero, making massive leaps and bounds, but I don't think Duncan Robinson can have much of a better season than he had last season. That was, I don't know, like pretty freaking historic in some aspects, I would say. I don't know all the stats off the top of my head, but it seemed like he was shooting at a ridiculously high clip. And I don't know. That's just kind of how I'm feeling. I feel like they definitely exceeded expectations in a lot of fronts, but they showed a bunch of inconsistency during the regular season last year that made me kind of question if they can get it done night in, night out in a regular season environment.
I think a lot of the inconsistencies they showed last season was due to really putting an active focus and pressure on their younger players and giving them the green light to go out there and play and develop their game. And so I think that's actually one of their keys to success in the playoffs is because I think their young talent. I mean, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. I mean, those are the two that get talked about the most. But also like Kendrick Nunn. Like a lot of people were like Kendrick Nunn was a one-hit wonder, good in the regular season, not good in the playoffs. But he also like didn't even play in the playoffs. And when he actually did, like in the finals, when he got like actual like more than like 8 minutes a game, he was actually good. I think they have a lot of this young talent, and I think these guys are going to go into next season more confident than ever. I think they have great chemistry down there, and I'm like, I truly think like they have like I don't know. I mean, although like I understand they finished fifth last year, but I think it's kind of crazy to say like the Eastern Conference champions are sixth in the East. Like to me, that's kind of crazy to say, especially when like they really didn't lose that much. And like, because as we said, like Jay Carter wasn't there that long. I mean, I don't think Derek Jones Jr. is that huge of an impact for them. I think they can fill that role with a next guy up mentality. I don't think he brought anything other than pure athleticism on some cool highlight dunks to the field. I mean, he wasn't like a great shooter or anything. He wasn't like an amazing defender. His job was to get the Miami Heat on Sports Center every night. But um,
He was a
no, I
pretty
don't
good
know.
defender. I think you're sleeping on what he brought on the defensive end to that team.
I don't think that is going to cause a significant impact for them. I don't know. I think it's kind of crazy to kind of just almost like if anything, I think the Miami Heat are going to just continue to get better. Bam Adebayo is only going to get better. I think Tyler Hero is going to become a third option for them, like a consistent night in night out scorer. They re-signed Goran Dragic for another year or two. I think bringing him back is a big deal because also like a lot of times like in the regular season, like Dragic didn't play that much in the regular season because they were trying to put Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero in these situations to prepare them for the playoffs, and look how it worked out for them. And I think by putting the young talent through those ups and downs in the regular season, that was what made them prepared for the playoffs, and hence why I think they're going to be a really good team next year.
Okay, so how do we want to rank these boys? So I could
So,
have, go ahead.
okay, so we need to do 4 and 5 right now, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
I could put the Heat at 5.
and then do Raptors at 4.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I'm cool with that. All right, our Davis. Why don't you go ahead and read off our 1 through 5 real quick before we go to break?
So right now, our 1 through 5 is the Milwaukee Bucks at number 1. Number 2 is the Brooklyn Nets. Number 3, the Boston Celtics. 4, the Toronto Raptors, or should we say the Tampa Raptors?
Tampa Raptors.
And at 5, we have the Miami Heat.
All right, and with that, we are going to go ahead and go to our first break.